at the next forum here in Atlantic City. I'm here with Jeff Marsico from the Kafafian Group. And Jeff, I was able to pull him aside in between sessions here. And really quickly, Jeff, a lot of the talk so far in multiple different sessions has been about the board and the makeup of the board. And I wanted to ask you your opinion on how important board diversity is in both age and professional background.
Yeah, I think age and professional background is probably where banks should focus on diversity because, if you look at boards of directors, they tend to gear more towards the more seasoned individuals, and they've been on the boards for a long time. And I think boards of directors, if they've been together for 12, 14 years, they start to suffer from groupthink. So when you diversify by age, and by professional backgrounds, not just buddies of the next board member. You get more robust dialogue in the board meetings, more challenging to the management teams. They tend to prepare a little bit better. That's not the same old, same old. So I do think board diversity is important, and focusing on the demographics of their communities and also the professional backgrounds of board members.
And I know one of our presenting sponsors, the Trevelyan Group, is an expert in finding board members and doing searches for board members, but several of our panelists have mentioned so far that not just having a diverse group of board members is important, but also having board members that have experience as a banker in the industry. What are your suggestions on how boards can bridge the gap until they find the right people?
Yeah, I think that some management teams are actually a little reticent to take on experienced bank people for fear that that board member may get into management issues instead of being at the appropriate level of the board. And I think that could be managed just through expectations in the interview process. It's absolutely critical that board members, the board as a whole, have that level of expertise, so it'll provide greater insights to the board and things like that are very technical, like asset liability management, credit trends, the impact on macroeconomic factors on the bank balance sheet. Very difficult for a community member that does not have the banking experience to be able to discern that. So having somebody with banking experience could be really beneficial to the management team, to the board as a whole, and to the successes of the company.
One last question, Jeff, if you don't mind. So part of what we do here at Banking Plus is to try to raise up the next generation of banking leaders. So if you don't mind, if you could talk to some junior level bankers right now about what's happening with M&A in the industry. And we have an election coming up here in November. So if there are banks and if there are younger bankers interested in the whole M&A process, could you help them understand a little bit better as far as why banks need to start the M&A process before an election happens in November?
Yeah, I would never make an M&A decision based on politics. I probably wouldn't make any decision based on politics, even household finances. But I will tell you that the biggest damper on bank M&A has been the mark-to-market issue, which is driven by the interest rate environment and where bank valuations are in general. But the panel here also talked about the lack of those intermediate buyers. I like to call them the Barracuda class, those $1 to $10 billion banks. And that's why we're seeing more credit union deals, because there's just a thinness of the traditional bank acquirers. But I do think that as bank valuations start to bounce back and as the mark-to-market becomes less of an issue with interest rates, that bank deals are going to pick up regardless of where we are in the political situation. Of course, it's a little more difficult in the political situation based on where the OCC and the FDIC are starting to assert them different categories for what their criteria is for approving deals. And that does depend on what happens in the national election, but I wouldn't make an M&A decision based on that.